Let me try that again.
Wake up in a panic, we're in over our heads again. We know this is what we're meant to do. So we wake up, put our feet on the floor, go and conquer the day like a warrior, like warriors. Cause that's what a tribe does. We got your back so you can relax and focus on all the important stuff, like getting your business done. This is our tribe. We look out for each other. That's right, that's right. This is our tribe. We help each other grow in business and life. That's right, that's right. No need to panic anymore. We got lots of support and an army of warriors by our side. We fight the good fight when we unite. We fight the good fight when we unite. Cause that's what a tribe does. We got your back so you can relax and focus on all the important stuff, like getting your business done. This is our tribe. We look out for each other. That's right, that's right. This is our tribe. We help each other grow in business.
Oh, goodness, we've got surprisingly loads more people have arrived since the song came on. It must be attracting everyone from all over the world, which is very nice. Hello, everyone, and welcome to your weekly dose of business inspiration with the Coffee Shop Conversation Show, coming at you from all around the world, really, isn't it? To be honest with you, from Europe, Africa, potentially America. I think definitely America, as we've got Sondra here. And I'm James. Oh, I should introduce myself. I'm James of James Brown Voice, your voiceover with soul, here to give your brand a trustworthy, welcoming voice, should you be doing any kind of advertising. And my co-host is, as always, the lovely Miss Sondra Ray. How are you, Sondra? How's your week been? We'll just do
I,
small talk, shall we?
I am good. I am good. Um, Life is very, 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 very capital VERY full. Um, which that's great. It's amazing. Sure. Today we are going to talk about a subject that I love, obviously, as a goal accountability coach, SMART goals, and KPIs. I'll be honest, KPIs are definitely not my strength. So that's why we bring on experts like the amazing Miss Nistine. Can you tell us about SMART goals and KPIs, please?
Thank you so much, Sondra. It is amazing to be here with you guys. I just love coming to this show. Thank you so much for giving me a chance to talk to you about this subject. I'm just also going to rename us quickly. So SMART goals and KPIs. I won't take too much time. I'm just going to give us like a 5-minute intro and then we get into the discussion of it. And I'm so keen to hear everyone's opinion on this because we have some real amazing experts in the house tonight. Like Sondra said, this is literally what she specializes in. So Sondra, can we agree? If you have something to say, throw me with a rock after the show. Anyway, ladies and gents, I want to know SMART goals. Who doesn't know what a SMART goal is? Just give me a quick indication. Because I think by now most of us have. Of course, Rob. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, James. Thank you so much. Okay, so we'll go into, I think a lot of us have by now have at least heard the term SMART goal, right? Okay, so here's the thing. If you do not have goals, then you're exactly like Peter. Joking. So Peter has goals, he just refuses to write them down. But if you do not have goals, it's going to be really, really difficult for you to stay on track, right? So if you are currently finding yourself with, you have this amazing vision, you can see the freaking vision, you have this empire, the employees come in the morning, they greet you, someone makes your coffee, you're saving the world for a living, like literally, like that's the vision that you have, right? And right now it's more like you're stuck in a boat on the open ocean and you're not even sure in what direction you're sailing. That is how the entrepreneurial journey looks if we do not have goals. What happens is when we do have SMART goals in place, it's like we basically set our sails, we get a flag, and now at least we know in which direction we're sailing. And we start figuring out how long it's going to take to get us to that beautiful castle that is the end vision, right? So that's what SMART goals is about. So SMART is an acronym for framing your goals. So first of all, like I would recommend you need to have at any point in time between 3 and 5 SMART goals in place. They need to be written down. They need to be displayed on your wall, on your door, on your car, wherever you, on your phone, on your forehead, wherever you can see them every single day. Now, the thing that I'm going to tell you, because I have this weird personality that's a little bit like workaholic perfectionist. In the beginning, when I started with goal setting, I found it really easy to like define all my goals, but then I got really frustrated and irritated because they would get outdated. And I would think like, oh, well, you did something wrong. The thing that you need to realize right now is goal setting is not a once-off thing that you do at the beginning of your life and then you just tick all the boxes as you go. That would be amazing if it worked like that. Then you would be a sim. Okay, you would be a sim living in some city or in some virtual simulation. Unfortunately, real life doesn't work like that. Real life is messy, and instead of going from your start point to your end point like this, you're probably going to go like that to end up over here. Okay, so that is why we need to do our SMART goal setting process periodically. I think, Sondra, if I'm correct, you do them quarterly, the workshops that you run with everyone. Yeah, so Sondra does them quarterly. You could do them monthly, bi-monthly, whatever works for you, but you need to realize it's not going to be a once-off process. Set the goals and then just tick the boxes for the rest of your life, right? Okay, so that's the first thing that we need to get out of the way. Then the SMART acronym is what you use to frame your goals. Now, there's many reasons for this. It was researched for a very long time. It's just a really good framework to make sure that your goals are accurate, valid, and complete. Okay, so SMART tells you basically break down the acronym and then you use it to frame your goals. So you start with the S in SMART, specific. So specific means it needs to be something that is specific. So if your goal right now is grow revenue, that's fantastic, but we want to be specific. By how much do you want to grow revenue? 10,000 Rand in the next month, $60,000 in the next year. What is the specificness of the goal going to look like, right? So we want to be specific. The next one is A, measurable. It needs to be measurable. So on top of being specific, so how much by when, we need to have it measurable. Measurable literally means there is something that you can measure to figure out how far you've sailed. How far have you come? How close are you to accomplishing this goal? Right? So that is what measurable means. So it has to be measurable. So if you have the goal that you want to grow revenue by $60,000 in the next year, that's measurable because $60,000, we can literally go to our bank statements, you can tally them up, and you can see how far are we from that 60,000. If you have the goal to say, I want to increase my happiness on a scale from 1 to 10, where I take this questionnaire at the end of the month and I'm going to increase it by 2 points, that's measurable because you have a questionnaire. So you just need to think about when you're setting your goal, how am I actually going to measure whether I've achieved this goal or not? Very important, because what happens if it's not measurable is you end up in a place where you're either very demotivated or you're doing fantastic, but that's because you don't know how far away from the goal you are, right? Okay, next one is A, achievable. You want it to be achievable. Now, this is where someone like me always, I don't get it wrong because that's a harsh word, but I set the goals
up here.
And then I make Peter jump over the hurdle. We want it to be We want it to be achievable. The reason for this is because you want your goals to be motivating. If you literally set yourself such a high unachievable goal that in the morning you look at this goal and you're like, I might as well just go back to sleep. Someone else needs to come and live this life. I literally cannot do this. Then the goals are highly are likely not that achievable, right? So a great way that I figured out for me that I check myself, because if you're not sure if your goals are achievable, then you need to look for evidence. What evidence do you have that these goals are achievable? Past performance is a great indicator of future performance. If you have a past record, so if you have made 10 sales in the last 10 years, setting a goal that you're going to do 20 sales in the next month, I don't know how achievable that is. If you have no past experience to go on, are there competitors? Have you spoken to other entrepreneurs that have maybe made sales before? What did they tell you? How many sales did they make in their first month? Right? Things like that. So you need to do something, some kind of check, some kind of research to make sure that your goals are achievable. Next up, we want them to be relevant. Now, how does relevant look like? Relevant looks different for each entrepreneur, but relevant for you will mean that it fits into your bigger vision. It speaks to your why. It speaks to your purpose. It gets you closer to the castle. You can set a really, really good smart that looks like a smart goal, but it can literally sail your boat in the complete wrong direction because it's going away from your vision. So when you're setting the smart goal, you need to ask yourself, and this is why it's also important to update it periodically, how is this getting me closer to my end goal, to my vision? How is this fitting in with my purpose, my values, everything else? If it's a good fit, if there's alignment, then it's going to be relevant for you. And then it needs to be time bound, which also fits in with specificity. We need to make sure that there's a time limit. So I'm going to do it in the next month, the next 6 months, the next year, the next 5 years. Be careful to set the goals too far into the future as well. And because if you know that you're going to be updating them periodically, it's good to maybe set a 6 months goal, but it's likely that if you set it for 3 years from now, maybe you would have changed your mind. Maybe you'll be doing something different. Maybe you would have pivoted. Maybe you would have had another goal. Yeah. So that is what a smart goal is. Now, quickly, just on top of the smart goals, before Sondra really throws me with a rock. T. It doesn't fit into this conversation. Are you making some?
No, he meant the letter T. Time bound.
Oh, it's time bound.
She did say it, Peter. She said it.
Thank you, Sondra. Thank you, Peter.
It's my pleasure.
Okay. Time bound, right. So now on top of this smart goal, I'm so glad you're listening. I mean, there's a slight lag, but you are actually paying attention.
How can it be a lag if I'm sitting right next to you?
Because I talked about time bound for like 2 minutes and then you brought it up. Anyway, moving on swiftly, KPIs. Okay, so the next thing that once you have your 3 to 5 smart goals on the paper, you got to bring in your KPIs. Why? Because that's what's going to measure if you're going to achieve your goals or not. So KPI, key performance indicator. You need between 1 and 3 for every smart goal. Example, if your smart goal is, I am going to increase revenue by 10,000 Rand in the next 6 months. What gets you that 10,000 Rand? Because it's great, it's a fantastic goal, and it could be smart and everything. But what is your process that you're going to go through to get that 10,000 Rand? If you don't have a process, then you better come up with one, because we're going to need one in order to make sure that we achieve this goal. Once we got the process, that's where you pick apart that process and you identify in that process what drives my SMART goal. Now, this is actually from management accounting. So this I get so excited when I talk about these things. Like, it's literally just me. It's numbers. But you're basically going to put numbers to things that aren't supposed to have numbers in them. So it's absolutely fantastic. Yes. So KPI, what drives your SMART goal? Now, I know, like, very quickly explain. I know that for us, in order to get... Okay, let me explain it like this. Our sales process works like this. We contact 100 people on LinkedIn. 5 of them will show up to the Global Online Speed Networking event. 3 of them will date the tribe. Between 1 and 2 of those, for every 100 that we start a conversation with on LinkedIn, will convert into a paying tribe member, right? So if my goal is that I want to increase monthly revenue by 10,000 Rand a month, I need to work backwards in my process. How many people do I need to speak to in order to generate 10,000 Rand?
You mean how many people do I need to speak to?
That's correct. I don't speak to people. Peter does. That's his job description, which is why you look the way you look.
Tired. I'm so tired.
So Peter needs to have a whole lot of conversations for us to have an extra 10,000 Rand a month, right? Agreed. So that's also going to help you figure out how doable this is. If the answer right now is you're like looking at me, you're like, Nastine, like this makes absolutely no sense. It's so not applicable to me. I do not know what I need to do to make 10,000 Rand a month. That is where you for sure definitely need to contact someone like Sondra, so she can help you figure out a process that you can have in place. Because the first step is you need to go through the actual work of determining your product market fit, speaking to some people, trying out some lookalike clients, and then figuring out your customer journey so that you know what you need to do in order to make 10,000 Rand. You need to know those figures. And the only way, I know it's really, really awful in the beginning, the only way to start knowing how many conversations do I need to have in order to make the 10,000 Rand is to have the conversations and then to figure it out along the way. Chat to other entrepreneurs that have gone through the process before. That's what the tribe is for. And then that's how you figure it out. So that's literally what it is, ladies and gents. That is, you pick a KPI. The KPI is literally what drives my SMART goals, and you measure the KPIs on a periodic basis. If daily works for you, put in the numbers daily. If weekly works for you, put in the numbers on a weekly basis. Monthly, fine. But by doing that, you're going to not only know how far you are from meeting your goals, but you're going to become very focused on accomplishing those goals. And that is where you stop being busy and accomplishing very little, and you start actually increasing your output, your results, the numbers that matter. And that is what it is literally all about. So that is what I have to say about SMART goals and KPIs.
You've given us a lot to talk about.
Yeah, please have the conversation. I would love to hear from you. What do you have to say about SMART goals and KPIs? Do you agree with me? Do you have anything else to add? I know Mo loves numbers. Like there's nothing more in this world that she she would love to talk to us about KPIs. So that's Rob, by the way, and Sondra, and everyone else on the call. So yeah, I can't wait to hear your input, ladies and gents, and please go and check out the blog post on the businessacademy.com website. That's where the blog post is, and also leave your comments over there. We'd love to hear from you. I'm going to keep quiet now for now.
A lot to digest, as there always is. Thank you very much, Nastine. And I was wondering what the SMART goal. You think all goals are SMART, don't you? And then, of course, you break it down. There's an acronym, and that now makes sense. So thank you very much. Yeah, and very useful tips on how to generate those. And read the blog, everybody, because lots of useful info there. Who would like to chime in with their thoughts on that, first of all? Hands up, boys and girls.
I can chime in if there's no hands.
There are loads of hands.
Oh, the hands.
Came
I
up
just jumped.
right
I just jumped
as I
the
said
gun.
that. That's all right though. Yeah, that's fine, Rob. You know, you can be that guy.
I'll be that guy. I'll be that guy. So yeah, I just want to kind of give a scenario that happens with my sales team as an example. So when we sit down and we kind of work out goals, the general first goal is good, but it's very broad, right? So where possible, I apply the kind of break down the goal into a SMART goal. So as an example, I'll have a sales rep and they'll say, okay, they want to do 50 new clients. I'm like, fantastic, love it. So break it down, over what period of time would you like to get these 50? Well, that's this year. Okay. And then what type of clients do you want to get? Maybe some SMEs, maybe some mediums, And then, well, you know, what do these companies look like? And then from that, then in the sales reps mind, then you break it down to, okay, well, that's 12 people per quarter. That works out at what, 4, Nestina, the numbers, 4 per month. And then the person will realize, well, actually, no, I want to do way more, you know? So it's a very good framework to kind of spark that structure, you know?
I love that. I love that. Sometimes I was so I'm not a numbers girl. Truth be, truth be, truth be. I'd rather relationship, yeah, work with the client. Give me a Nastine or Gareth or a Rob to do the numbers because that is so not me. And Gareth can testify to that. So yeah, but I do like it when it's broken down. Like, okay, for you to meet this goal, it's reverse engineering. Basically, that's what it is. You're starting at the end and reversing engineering. And KPIs to me is always this big fancy word that I struggle to understand. I call them action plans. It's the steps you do to reach your goal. That terminology in the small business world does go over easier. I find KPIs, I always think of corporate KPIs, all this stuff. I'm like, what the heck is a KPI? A couple of years ago, I talked to somebody that runs high-end businesses, and he's just like, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, you mean the action steps? It's just like, really? Yes, KPIs are usually tied to numbers, though. So I think that's the difference between my action steps and KPIs. KPIs is usually tied to numbers. My action step is about actual physical actions you do. So I think that's the biggest difference between the two of them. But okay, Mr. L had his hand up, then he put it down, then Gareth. Which one? Who's going first? Who's going first?
I wanted to give Gareth a chance to speak first.
Okay.
I'm a gentleman, right?
Yes, you are, sir.
No,
You
I was
are a
gonna say the
gentleman.
same thing, but I'm
Oh my
happy.
goodness, you two. Okay, I'm picking. Forget it.
I'll go.
Gareth, go ahead. Gareth, come in on the conversation. I am glad you got to join us on this side of the conversation because usually you're on the
Yeah.
other side of the conversation. So welcome to being on the show.
Thank you, Sondra. Yeah, I mean, smart goals and KPIs is something that I work closely with all the time. But I do think that there's something that is just an interesting thing that happens with KPIs is a lot of the time you can get stuck on the wrong numbers. So it looks like so it's like a false KPI, right? Where it looks like it's going in one way, and then you make this mental link on that increasing trend and think, okay, that is why we're succeeding, but it's actually a result of a different action. So it's not the statistic that is causing the success, but a result of the success. And so you got to take a deeper look and be careful with falsely identifying the things that are actually causing you to move in the correct direction or the incorrect direction. So you really got to take a look at all of the numbers. Otherwise, I find that often happens. You spend so much time in the wrong industry or the wrong statistic just because you didn't look deep enough. Yeah, so that's just a word of warning. That's definitely happened to me a couple of times in the work that I do, but I'm a lot more thorough these days. I had a whole big thing to say about it, and I just got stuck on that. But yeah, that's my addition to the conversation.
That's great. Thanks very much, Gareth. Nice to hear from you. We go straight into Lasicha.
Okay, Mike had disappeared, which is okay. I'll just carry on. I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we read about smart objectives or smart goals and all that, and you read the explanation of each letter, and I think I understand. I've got to set smart goals. So they are specific. What is specific? I want to get to be a millionaire. And then you carry on with those until you get to the realistic part. Is it realistic for you to become a millionaire or a billionaire in 6 weeks? is it very realistic? So as Ernestine mentioned, it's in reverse. You've got to check the market. You've got to research and find out in your industry what is happening so that you are able to measure against that. You can't just say, I'm going to set my goals and this is where I want to be. Of course, I'd like to be a billionaire in 6 months. Who doesn't want to be? But is it realistic? Yes, you can measure it. It can happen, but is it realistic? Can you get there in that short space of time? Unless, of course, you're in politics, maybe you can. And then when you go into companies where they've got salespeople, I think it's a push of this is where you want to be. We want you to get to this much in so much time, or we want you to increase your sales by this much. And you find many a time they are unrelated to SMART objectives, because sometimes your market doesn't allow you to move and make that much sales in that specific time. Say in a month, you need to increase your sales by 10%. Can you do that? How many people do you have to see? And does your industry, does your target market allow you to get to that number of people in that specific time for you to be able to make that money? So that's what we need to guard against. Lesetja Moko from Litmok, your business development agents.
I love that. I love that, Mr. L. And I have actually told people don't get stuck on the SMART part. Like, write a goal. Like, sometimes you just need to write the goal and keep moving. If you get stuck on that and that's your roadblock, then let's move on. Let's get movement and then we can revisit it. So, yeah, I can say that not all my goals have always been SMART goals written in that format. They're still goals. So don't get hooked. Don't get so wrapped up in, I don't know all the SMART, blah, 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 blah. Fine. Just write the goal. Get action. Get moving. Don't make that your stopping point. There's, of course, a gazillion articles and blog posts and stuff about SMART goals. I've written on them, talked about them and everything else. But I actually did at one point write a blog that said, don't worry about a SMART goal. Just write a goal, write a plan, and let's go. So I do want to put that out there, that even if you don't understand it or don't know all the pieces to it, that does not mean it's a stopping block and you can't move forward. So don't make that that roadblock for you, because I have seen it happen many, many times. And it's like, no, don't get stuck there. Like, you can still take action and you can still move forward and you can still have goals without them being very SMART goal specific. But it is a great way to write goals. I will have to say that. But Mikey, come on in.
Hi guys, hi everyone. Hi Renee, it's been such a long time. I'm so excited to have Renee. I actually just wanted to add, there's one element that can also or needs to be included, but it's more if you have a team or if you're not alone, if there's others in your company, and that's accountability. So having the SMART goals and KPIs, for sure, it's all good, but you also need some form of accountability. It's easier said than done, and if you're a one-man band, then I suppose you have to hold yourself accountable. But again, it's maybe something a bit more easier to digest if you have more than one individual in your company, because then you're sharing responsibilities and accountability. And accountability, and I don't know if it's PC to add this, but maybe if you are unable to reach your SMART goal or KPIs in the time frame you achieved, look back and unpack. Have you truly done all the activities or tasks that you set out to do when creating the goal or KPIs? And if no, and you still failed, okay, then that's just one of those things, and you have to re-look at or pivot potentially. But if you haven't put in all the effort, then that's where the accountability comes into play. And it's a bit of a touchy subject, but I think it's part and parcel of this whole aspect. It does need to be thrown in there somehow. It's Mikey Ganes from Clinicon. Wrong show. Let me guess. Wrong show, Sondra. Is it?
No, right show, Mikey. You're fine. Go ahead, James. Sorry.
Thanks, Mikey. Good to
Fine. Go ahead, James. Sorry.
good
You're
to
in
hear from you.
stereo.
No, just again to move on to Nestine and Peter. Now we got the hands are going up in with gusto.
Thanks
Nestine
so
and or
much.
Peter.
Thank you so much, James. So I put up the hand, but Peter is allowed to talk if he really has to.
No. Go ahead, ladies. But ladies
So
first.
much.
Ladies first.
I just have to say, I love you guys so much. I know I say this at every single show, but literally, like, just having your faces here and looking at you and hearing from each and every single one of you, like the different perspective, the different practical ads that I've experienced this, have you thought of that? It is so valuable. I cannot tell you how valuable it is. It's like one of the things I've wanted for the longest time in my life. And now I have all these entrepreneurial friends from all around the world, if we ever rebrand, we're probably going to call it entrepreneurial friends because that's what we've become. But it's so special and it is so valuable. I cannot tell you guys how valuable it is. Like one day, this is how valuable it is. One day we're going to sit in our castles or yachts or whatever you prefer, jets. Are we going to be doing this?
Or at this rate, we're all going to fit into Renee's castle.
We'll just book a room in Renee's castle, but the point is we'll still be having these conversations and these chats and just bouncing off of each other, and that is so valuable. So thank you so much for each and every single one of you that's here tonight and on the YouTube channel supporting and also adding your 10 cents. This is what makes the world go around. So, but anyway, I wanted to say big ups to Mikey. I so agree. If you have a team, you cannot, I don't care who you are, you cannot drive a team if there are no goals and no KPIs. How are you going to, like, people need to be on the same page. So what Mikey said about like having these things when you have a team, exceptionally valuable, even if it's like between 1 and 3 goals and between 1 and 3 KPIs that we look at every single day. Like it just helps you be on the same page. And then the next thing that I quickly wanted to also touch on was Gareth. Gareth, you said something that was so valuable. Thank you so much for your contribution. It is incredibly important to not waste your time looking at the wrong numbers over and over again. And it does happen. And unfortunately, I have to tell you guys, more often than not, it happens to accountants. Because we love numbers. But what we maybe always haven't figured out is that if you keep tracking the revenue number and it is never really going up, you can track it until you're blue in the face. You're not going to change anything through tracking that. Like what you need to do is you need to understand the difference between lagging indicators and driving indicators. And if you're in small business, because of the cutthroat nature of small business, I would say if you only have time to track a few numbers, you have to track your drivers. You're going to look at the lagging indicators. You don't have a choice. It's your bank account balance. But what you have to spend time on is figuring out what drives that bank account balance, what makes it go up. That is your driver. If you need to be having conversations, that's your KPI. If you need traffic on your website, that's your KPI. If you need to attend a certain number of networking meetings, that's your KPI. So it's so important to be tracking the right numbers, the numbers that make a difference for you. And it also, like, don't let that pressure you until you don't want to act, because what Sondra said is also so valuable. That's why she's the get it done coach. Like, she specializes in this stuff. And if you're by yourself and you can't figure out how to make the numbers go up, that's when we hire Sondra, because she helps you get it done. But those numbers, like, once it takes a while to find your numbers, It really does. But once you know them, and Rob will also tell you this, once you know what your numbers are, it almost becomes like a piece of cake because you know what needs to happen in order to drive the rest of the business. Like then you're just like dealing with change and whatever happens and team members changing and but you know what you need to focus on in order to make the whole business move forward. So it takes a bit of time to find them. So don't let that pressure you too much. But once you found them, wow, it's amazing.
I just want to add something from my perspective. I'm terrible with numbers. I'm dyslexic. Creating a plan is not the best thing on the planet for me. As a solo entrepreneur, in order to get to a point where I can actually create a plan or create goals, I have to have experience of what it takes in my space before I can figure out what those goals are. So I think for solo entrepreneurs, it's very difficult to go, I'm going to set these goals when we don't actually have anything to go by. Like especially if you're a startup entrepreneur, you don't yet know how long something will take. You don't yet know what process you're doing. You don't yet know. Those all have to be developed. And I think once they are developed, you can jump into setting smart goals. And I think that's where what Sondra mentioned, a lot of people get stuck because they battle to move over from I'm the solo entrepreneur and I just do to actually setting those smart goals and the KPIs. And at that shift it's actually a shift in thinking. And as a solo entrepreneur, if you're battling with that shift in thinking, then the best thing that you can actually do is surround yourself with other entrepreneurs that are on the same journey or further ahead in the journey than what you are. So, and I think that's why a lot of the members in this space go through those journeys actually together. They support each other through it. It makes it a whole lot easier. And then in regards to if you're not solo and you do have a team, and you've already figured out those processes and you've already figured out it doesn't help if you set your SMART goals and your KPIs and you're the only person that knows them. That doesn't help at all. So you can actually utilize your SMART goals and your KPIs and that process of building that out. And I'm sure Rob will agree with me on this because that's the space that he's in, is that if you are sharing those goals and those KPIs and your team are part of driving those goals and those KPIs, then not only are they driving the functionality of the space, but they're actually driving the vision of the business. So if you can link those two together, you can actually push so much further. And I would agree with Sondra. Quarterly review in that space can give you a lot of direction. And then that helps to guide your next choices, your decision making, how you handle your team, what choices you make next. I think that's about it.
Well done. Woo! Mr. Braith, are you up?
Thank you very much.
I love it.
I think my first goal is to remember what I wanted to say. Sorry, I've got a bit of a lag here. Just bear with me a second. Can you hear me properly? Okay. So, all right. So I think the big thing with, I completely agree with the goals. And I think the goals, the most important part of the goals is the achievable part. Because if you don't get to the achievable part, you're going to get discouraged and you're going to not achieve those goals. But then I think it's also important to reverse engineer even further than that. I think before you can get to the point where you set your KPIs and your goals, you need to understand a few things before that. And I have this conversation with so many clients, and I actually have fun doing it, asking, what do you actually sell? And you know how little people actually can answer you with a first answer what they actually sell or who their clients are. And I think that's where a lot of small companies make a mistake, is anybody is a client. No, anybody can't be a client. You need to be able to know who you're targeting and exactly what product you're selling. If you don't know that, then it doesn't even help setting up a goal. And that's where a lot, and I even take myself in the beginning. I mean, who would you like to, anybody need a website? No, that is too wide. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. So I mean, you need to understand that before you can get to that point. And I think then the other big thing is to not write those goals to be too stretched. You need to stretch yourself to grow, but rather break up those goals in smaller goals, because then at least you feel like you've achieved something if in the smaller goals. So you shouldn't have just one SMART goal. Should have a list of them, what you will achieve. You'll have your short-term, your mid-term, and your long-term goals. And that is the short-term goals is your quick wins, the ones that encourage you and give you that hope and that drive that it is going to get better and you're going to achieve the main goal at the end of the day. Yeah, I think that's just my 2 cents worth on that.
I love that. I love that, Renee. And I must have called your name out enough this morning because I was talking about you earlier today. All good. And so here you are. So I was like, awesome. I need to like call out more people's names so people will be on the show. Love that. Love that. Love that. Yes, I'm going to say one caveat to that. You can get too into creating a gazillion goals and never take action. So I always say pick three to start and then move with those 3, because my amazing creative entrepreneurs that I work with usually have multiple businesses. And if they do 3 per business, they'll have way too many, or their creative brain gets lost in all the different setting goals and they don't take action. So I am very big on the pick 3 method. Pick 3 goals, pick top 3 tasks for the day. The pick 3 method, there's science behind it and all that. But that was the only caveat I'd bring into that, is that because I don't want people to like get lost and I have to have a goal for every part of my business 5,000 times and never take action. So speaking of numbers and all the amazingness, come on in, Rob.
Thank you. I'm going to disagree with everyone to an extent. I've started some very unsuccessful businesses and some successful ones. Luckily, at the moment, a successful one. We're in the midst of it. And for me, looking back, I think I left school pre-matric, 16 years old, attempted to start a business. It kind of limped along like a dying something for a year and a half, and then it officially, read its eulogy. So for me, what was missing then, if I reflect on it now, is this whole kind of alignment of where you want to go, right? Because unless you plan to be a solo entrepreneur forever, to get some of these structures in to an extent where they kind of can work for you as early on as possible, then when your first staff member comes in or your first subcontractor comes in, they're there. You've got a bit of a vision, you've got a bit of a purpose, and you've got a bit of structure. Whatever, doesn't have to be detailed, So I'm agreeing and disagreeing with all the bits and pieces. But for me personally, is having that structure. It's like the definition of an organization. If you're talking not a solopreneur, you have you plus one person. It's a group of people. They aligned by a common purpose, and that is driven to a common vision. So everyone's on the same page. And then I think even with the KPIs, because KPIs is a big word, but then just use something that makes sense for you. If it's a administration person, how on earth do you KPI? How many, papers shuffled? How many appointments made? You know what I mean? It's like it's an impossible task, but there might be a common ground that you can sit with that individual to understand what do they think their kind of performance is, and do that, whatever that is. Okay. So agreeing and disagreeing. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. It's good to have a bit of contrariness in the room. And we're back to Nestine and Pete.
Yeah, I'm actually really liking the conversation so far. So I just want to basically, from the key points that have been mentioned, I just want to add something that doesn't make it look as daunting, because the way we're talking about it makes it look like this huge, scary process that we have to put in place. Otherwise, our business is going to end. Okay, take a deep breath. It's not like that.
But it is a little bit.
It is a little bit. But that's the whole point of the space. There are people in the space that do understand what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, when it needs to be done, and can support in getting it done. Something I'd like to say from my own perspective is that when it comes to the numbers, if I have to get hung up on the numbers, I would never really understand what's going on because I think differently. So there has to be a way for people that are focused on the numbers that they can read the space through the numbers, and people that don't function with the numbers, that they can actually see it from a different perspective but get the same outcome. So I see Mo is agreeing with me, and I see that entrepreneurs generally, they have this this demeanor, this artistic flair, this way of thinking outside of the box, and generally and I'm not saying that this is the golden rule, it's not, but generally a lot of entrepreneurs don't function with the numbers. So we need to find another way. What I'm going to say is, if you're not able to read it via the numbers, don't get hung up on trying to read it with the numbers. That's when you will get stuck. If you think in a different way, measure it in that way. Create a different way of measuring it, and then that way you'll know exactly where you are, how you are, and what's happening next. So if I had to sit down with Nastine, and well known as Nastine as a chartered accountant, and she had to go, well, this is where we're at, look at the numbers. I'm looking at the page and going,
Our first board meetings were so fun. I just have to tell everyone that they were fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic. I was lost all the time.
I was frustrated all the time.
So we had to take a different route on how are we reading that. So don't be disheartened if you're going, oh, but I can't read the numbers. I don't understand the numbers. It's okay. Neither do I. But here's the trick. Surround yourself with people that do. So Nastine does. So we have the ability to read that space. It can be translated, and we can measure it in a way that I understand. And I can create my own way of measuring that space. So that's meant and designed to support you, build in a way that you understand. Otherwise, you're creating something that you don't want to read. I don't want to read the numbers. You get me into a space to read the numbers, to see if we are functioning within the plan and the KPIs, and I'm like, oh, not interested. And I'm not going to do it. Sondra knows that. To get me to do things I don't want to do is like it's like licking sand, but it's not going to happen.
Try it, it's fun.
Actually, I have sand before, but that's beside the point. Do it in a way that suits you, and be strategic enough to surround yourself with people that do it in a way that supports you. So you want to be surrounded by the Sondras. You want the Gareths by your side. You want the Renee Bresses by your side. You want the infamous Rob Murray in your circle. You want these people around you, because it just makes your journey a whole lot easier. And because it's all relationship based and people are actually getting to know you, they get to know your space through you. They get to understand how you see your space, and then it's easier to do. It's easier because it's not just, here's my business, make a plan with the numbers. That doesn't work. It needs to be a little bit more up close and personal. And I agree with Sondra. If you're battling with breaking it apart and being like, these are the set goals, and you're getting stuck, don't stop. Just choose one thing and get it done. We can always create the plan later, but get things done. Don't be stagnant. If you're stopping and you don't know where to go next, well, then you should actually be having conversations with pretty much all the people on the screen.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at the people on the screen, have all been part of where we have managed to get ourselves unstuck. So Renee Bresser, a huge part of our space and how we've built our space. Gareth, how we've built into our new spaces and how we've taken steps to advance and grow our business. Sondra and James, as hosts of the Coffee Shop Conversation Show.
Wow.
All key parts. Mo, we will be seeing you shortly, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Mo's invading our house.
Invading our space. She's going to come down for a visit. Mikey, a student in our space, but been adding to so many conversations and building relationships with so many people in our space that it's part of his journey. So, and in a lot of ways, a lot of the people in this space are parts of each other's journey,
That's beautiful.
and it's beautiful to watch.
Yachts for everybody.
And then obviously the infamous Rob that we've partnered up with on a new venture with the Business Academy Cafe. Come now, people. This is a space you want to be talking to everyone in. Over and out.
So true. Yes, we are interlinked, even when we don't know we're interlinked. So Renee would not have had a clue if I hadn't said anything about the fact that I was speaking about him this morning, and that we've had projects that we keep both putting on the back burner, and that we need to do things. And the other thing so two things. One, I always believe people have goals. They just don't know it because they have dreams. If you have a dream, you have a goal. Almost everybody I know has some type of dream. A lot of times you just need somebody to sit down and listen to you, because there's a lot of noise in the world. So that's why I have brain dumping and goal setting sessions, because 90% of people do have goals. They just need somebody to write it out for them. Second, the Unstuck program was exactly built for that, Peter. Was built for people that were getting stuck on the minor details and not moving forward. A tribe member, it was this project list. She had 75 to 80% of each project done. She had 20 of them. And we set a plan on how to complete those. And she completed them all in 2 weeks, because we just tweaked her plan and how our days were going. So that came out of that. But yeah, I firmly believe people have goals. Sometimes they just need somebody to listen to them, including myself. Poor Gareth has had to listen to me for about, 3 to 4 weeks now. I asked him the other day if he was sick of me yet. He keeps telling me no. But yeah, I got creative this weekend and I brain dumped it. And today he's like, okay, what exactly does this all mean? I'm like, it was a brain dump. It's not like a project per se, but this is where I'm thinking that needs to go on next. So I think having those people in your space is extremely important. And that's why I love the community, because we can help each other out. And of course, I am jealous, Mo, because I want to come and visit Peter. So I think it's amazing that you're going to go. Come on in the conversation.
Yeah, no, they've been inviting me for a long time, and I'm an old school Black person, so we're raised to accept invitations at some point. It's rude, it's like when somebody offers you get to a person's house and they've got tea and scones and whatnot, and you're like, no, I just ate a gourmet lunch, with oysters and everything. They've got tea and scones. It's rude at some point not to accept their tea and scones, right? So yeah, I could jest with Peter and Nestine literally all night long, but in the interest of time, I'll just, I think I've been silent because I've been literally just like taking notes like a crazy person. And I think everybody's basically touched on everything that I wanted to say. So at this point, I feel like I should just drop mic and sort of make it look like all of those words of wisdom were my own. But the one thing I'll add is, and I love the fact that, because I think Peter, you touched on it just now about not being a numbers person, and I'm like a weird person because I've got the numbers and I've got the words, right? So people always think I'm like a crazy psychopath, but really what it is that when I started seeing stories through numbers, the numbers made sense. Then I fell in love with the numbers, right? And then when I started seeing how the words could then link back to the numbers, then even the words made sense. So I think sometimes we misinterpret the two and how they linked together. The numbers tell a story. So you talk about like what Nestine and Peter were talking about, even in the beginning, talking about their particular use case. They were describing a conversion rate and a drop-off rate and a churn rate, an engagement rate. That's what they're actually describing, but she didn't use numbers. She just used words and then gave you a numerical example of what that means. So in order to get X amount of sales at the end of the month, I need to reach X thousand of people. That gives you a percentage. That means that for every X amount of people that you reach, these are the people that you're going to get as a sale. right? So I can use a number, or I can just explain it that way to you. Either way, you know what I mean? Like, I think you guys are nodding, but either way, the number and the story are married to each other. It just depends on on which end your brain leans closer towards intuitively. So that's the one thing I'll say, especially as entrepreneurs, you need to have even just an elementary or a basic understanding of the numbers, because then that stops people from BSing you. So your tax guy can't BS you, your accountant can't BS you, the social media agencies can't BS you about, you know, click rates and what all that means and so forth. If you have an elementary understanding of it, then nobody can really BS you, because it can be like, that acronym doesn't even exist in the context of the industry I'm hiring you to do work for me. So that's the one thing I'll always encourage entrepreneurs to always have an understanding of both ends of it. The next thing I'll say in terms of particularly goal setting is have quantitative. So I think a lot of the discussion was about a lot of quantitative KPIs, but also have qualitative. What does it feel like? What does it taste like? What does it look like? What does it smell like? Have those like qualitative ways of gauging whether you're going in the right direction or you're on the right track. Because sometimes, actually, like I said, all those numbers you see, for a human being who's engaging with you, your business, your service, your product, it comes down to actually, what did it feel like? What did it taste like? What did it sound like? What did it smell like? How did it make me feel? How did it edify me? You know, how did it put at my heartstrings and make me feel like I'm changing the world just by saving a bee? You know what I mean? Like, to the human being that we're trying to reach, that's actually what matters. On the other end of that is your drop-off rate, your conversion rates, your end, and your revenue. Those are the numbers that tell that story. So have a balance of the qualitative and the quantitative. And then the other thing I'll add, and this is a point to what Lesicha had said earlier on, which is a pet peeve for people in sales, is not understanding the sales cycle and the sales lead time. That some sales can take half a decade to complete. So if you're not understanding your sales cycle and you're not marrying that to the lead times and how you build your goals, you're gonna frustrate the system, including yourself. I've got clients that are only calling me now. I've been on 5 years knocking on the door and hanging out with them 5 years. Only now am I only even just getting a proper brief to that I can actually work with, right? And then the last thing I'll say is when you have SMART goals, and I completely agree with just throw a stone, and wherever the stone lands, that's where you start. Because then you're gonna get into analysis paralysis, where there's too much going on in the world. So just throw a stone. Where that stone lands, that's where you start. Is when you have those kind of like goals or SMART goals, what it also does help you identify is potential risks and bottlenecks, and what your strengths are going to be and what your weaknesses are going to be. So then if you know that, oh good Lord, looking at endless numbers or looking at endless code is not something I care enough to do. And I'm in a tech company, so I'd rather just like pay Renee to like code the stuff and then tell me where it works, where it doesn't work, and then for him to find where the error is. Because I don't want to sit there and find the bug. So Renee must find the bug in the website. You know what I mean? Like, so then you know where those bottlenecks are going to be because you've got those goals. And then I will say this as closing is, it gets very overwhelming. So always focus on, what does it look like? Like when you set those goals, what does it look like for you? And the classic example is in financial advisory, when you're advising a client, when a client comes to you and they want to build wealth or they want to do something for the family or whatnot, and you ask a client, okay, so what's your number? Nobody ever really has an answer to that, or a realistic number, right? You ask, what's your number? Is your number 10 milli per annum, or is your number 10 milli in terms of that will be the number that you retire at or whatever, right? What's your number? Nobody really ever has an answer to that. But when you change the question, you say, what does it look like, feel like, taste like? Where are you waking up in the morning? Then people are like, oh, they give you, then they can answer the question. And then that then works you back to what that number would be. So I always say, or like, if it gets overwhelming, focus on what does it look like, feel like, taste like for you and those that you will build around you. And then you work back from that feeling and that energy into what does that mean day to day and what those numbers look like. Drop mic. My name is Mo Malele.
Thank you,
There we
Mo.
go.
Thank you, Mo. That was worth waiting for, right? That's epic. Thank you very much, guys, for being with us for this week's Coffee Shop Conversation show. Some real nice nuggets to take away, and of course, Nastine's fabulous blog piece. I've been James Brown, your voiceover with Soul. Join us every week at the same time. Over to you, Sondra.
Thank you, James. Yes, I like totally lost track of time. So thank you, James, for going like, hello, the hour is up. Let's go. He probably wants to go eat his dinner, I bet. So my name is Sondra. I'm the owner of Get It Done Coaching. I help you set your goals, create the action plans and the KPIs, and help you figure out your strengths and weaknesses. I love that, Mo. That is definitely something that I am very big on. Finding that out from people. Announcements. We want to give a shout out to Susan, who does our cover. She does our show notes. She changes this into a podcast. You can find us on Spotify. So make sure you're following us on Spotify. Give us a rating. That's an always amazing thing. Share the show. We always love that. She will put all the LinkedIn links in the chat of the show. So you can schedule a call with any of these amazing people on the screen on the show today. And get to know them better, because that is what we want to do. We want to get to know our audience better so that we can help them. This week is Explore ProTech's big event, GSON, on Thursday. Make sure you sign up. Invite 5 people. I want to challenge you all to invite 5 people. Invite 5 people to Thursday's event. So that is it for me. Nastine, can you do our sign off?
Thank you so much, Sondra, James, and all the amazing business owners that joined us from around the world. You guys are absolutely epic. These conversations are going to take us very, very far. Yachts for everybody. Thank you so much, guys. You are absolutely, absolutely incredible. I'm Nastine Buerta, one of the co-founders of businessacademycafe.com, tribe mom of Explore ProTech. This has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for this show. And we'll see you next week, same time, same place. Until then, may all your wildest entrepreneurial smart goals come true.